Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again. So the Flash movie based its story around the concept of the Flashpoint storyline, written by Jeff Johns over a decade ago, about, what, 12 years ago roughly? Which of course involved Barry Allen preventing the death of his mother by going back in time using his abilities and just, well, stopping it from happening. Obviously, like the TV show, the film just uses the overall concept of Flashpoint, and then how the new timeline doesn't end up being as, Flash, as Barry was expecting, despite his mother still being alive and his father not being in prison. And there isn't a world-ending war like in the comic and the animated film, but one aspect that plays a part in the comic, the animated movie, as well as the TV show that the movie doesn't show at the very least, is Reverse Flash, the real killer of Nora Allen, might I say. Now in the movie, we just have it seem like a home intruder, like a thief, didn't see a car at the front of the home due to Henry Allen being at the grocery store. So they go into the home expecting no one to be there. All of a sudden, they run into Nora Allen. They stab her with the knife she was holding, and then they bail suspiciously quickly before Henry gets into the house. There was no real suggestion that it was a speedster, like some lightning crackling as they run away, or the sound of it, or anything like that. The only hint was, they got away pretty quickly. But outside of that, no real hint at it being another speedster, let alone it being Reverse Flash that, did this murder. But recently, Andy Muschietti, when discussing the film, did open up, on this whole thing and who was involved and where it would have led into a potential sequel, which appears it might not even have a chance at potentially happening now, but still an interesting thing to go over and wonder about, wonder what if. So during an interview with The Playlist, the Flash director Andy Muschietti did discuss the villains he would look to explore in a potential sequel, and in doing so revealed who murdered Maribel Verdoo's Nora Allen. Although the killer was never shown on screen or there was really any dialogue suggesting a speedster was the killer, Muschietti has now described Reverse Flash as the murderer of Barry's mum, even suggesting he would likely be the logical villain for a Flash sequel. Well, Reverse Flash is the elephant in the room, right? It feels like you can't make another movie without addressing the one that, in all accounts, is the murderer of Barry's mum, so it feels like the big villain. Now, the big question around this is that people have really been wondering whether, if it was Reverse Flash, whether the timeline that takes place in the movie even makes sense. Why would Henry Allen being home and not, out getting tomatoes from the grocery store, why would that stop Reverse Flash killing Barry's mother? He could still just zoom in, do his thing and then leave. He could still easily do that. I mean, in the movie, we see that Henry Allen is sort of like busy around other parts of the house, like out in the garden or doing whatever it is. He's very, hands-on. He's a handyman of sorts and he's doing different things around the house while, Nora's in the kitchen cooking. So Reverse Flash could have easily killed her regardless of whether Henry's there or not. But they could make it that that's just a simple butterfly effect of sorts with Henry being home rather than him being out and him, not affecting things in the manner, in the outside world. He's home, so there's no effect there. And that could be what stops Eobard from being there at that specific time and committing the murder. It is weird. In Flashpoint, it makes sense. In the actual Flashpoint story in the comics, it makes sense because Barry just stops Reverse Flash from doing it. But this one is a bit more of a strange one that probably doesn't make too much sense unless you push strenuous impact of the butterfly effect and how much it can change. It can literally affect what Reverse Flash does. And it's a big push, but I guess it works in some way, I guess. But a big question around this is what would a Flash sequel with Reverse Flash look like? And I think a good idea around it where I think it allows Reverse Flash to be organically introduced, where he's just not showing up all of a sudden, but it's sort of a connect the dots and then it's revealed, is that maybe Barry is dealing with other villains, maybe the Rogues or whoever it is throughout the film, or just one or two other, a Captain Cold and maybe Heatwave, both of them together. And that's who Barry's dealing with for early parts of the movie. But you can just feel, both us, the audience, as well as Barry, he can just feel there is just some other force, another being or something like that throughout the movie that's just messing with Barry. And then maybe there can be flashpoints throughout the movie to other moments in Barry's life, after, Nora was killed and everything like that, where things just were all of a sudden happening, like tripping over nothing or being pushed over and no one who's behind him. So it's like a ghost is doing it. I mean, that was in the comics with Reverse Flash. He did that to Barry when Barry was growing up. He was that petty and was that big of a hater towards Barry Allen that he would do this stuff, push Barry down the stairs, trip him over, make Barry do crazy things like that. That's just what Reverse Flash did. He was that petty and that much of a hater and just that ruthless. That's what he would do. And obviously had a lot of time on his hands. I mean, you get all that, and then it could lead up to a big reveal to Barry that Eobard was the one who truly killed his mother along this story as well. But then again, this first movie that's come out, or maybe the only movie, but this movie that's just come out sort of dealt with Barry closing off that chapter of his life and coming to terms with his mother's death. So would it be right to really dive into this again? And you probably could. It just really depends on the execution of it all. But I think it's got a fine line, in regards to whether Barry, is right for Barry to go through it again, depending, when we see what happens at the end of the first one or towards the end of the first one. So, yeah, it's a fine line there, but you probably could still do it. But as I said, it just depends on the execution. But along with this, Andy Muschietti also shared some of his favorite Flash villains that he wouldn't, have minded focusing on if given the chance. And this is what he said. I have my own favorites, but that's another story. I'd like to see the Turtle at some point, the slowest man on Earth, and Gorilla Grodd, of course, and many more. Now, in regards to the ones he mentions, I mean, Turtle vs. Flash would be cool in a movie or part of a film, just seeing what the Turtle could do and just how it would work visually as a film. I mean, it was cool on the TV show, so it'd be cool to see what it's like in the film. I mean, like Hunter Zolomon or Zoom in the comics sort of has those similar powers to the Turtle, but does them in a more speedsterish way, if you want to put it. So it'd be cool to see that. Though they could just use, I guess, Hunter Zolomon, but I mean, you'd want to do Eobard Thawne before you do goddamn Hunter Zolomon, wouldn't you? And also Hunter Zolomon's more of a Wally West sort of villain there. But yeah, it was cool on the TV show, so it'd be interesting to see how they would do it on the show and make him actually more like a turtle. That'd be pretty cool. And many have suggested Gorilla Grodd, both in the past and also after this movie and stuff like that. And to be honest, I could see James Gunn suggesting Gorilla Grodd being used in the Flash movie in the near future. I don't know if he's really touched upon Gorilla Grodd. I feel like he has in an interview, but I don't know if he has at the same time. But Gorilla Grodd feels like one that would be an interesting use, the telepathy and just everything that he can do. And I mean, we did get that gorilla in Peacemaker, which many thought was Grodd at first, but it wasn't. It was just another gorilla. But maybe they could, James Gunn has used a gorilla before, so maybe he might be like, hey, Flash movie, Gorilla Grodd, maybe this other villain there, easy win, let's go with that one. So Gorilla Grodd is one that I've seen a lot, so it's not too surprising that Andy Muschietti would mention it as well. Now, in regards to the chances of a Flash sequel now, after the opening weekend at the box office, it's very, very unlikely, if not just not going to happen at all. I mean, this movie had to perform really, not amazingly well, not over $1 billion, but I think it needed at least 750, 800 million. And I mean, it looks like it's going to be lucky if it even gets close to 500 million, which is really disappointing because I think it's a really good movie. And I think it's just being jumped on a lot. I'm not saying actually a lot of ridiculously valid criticism. The CGI, I agree with it, but to say that's the reason that it's a bad movie, come on. But fair enough. People have other reasons that I don't necessarily agree with, but I do agree with the CGI parts as well. It could be much better. But I mean, it's disappointing that it's not doing better. I think it's caught everyone off guard. I mean, it's sort of crazy. It's definitely the talk of Hollywood at the moment. How did this movie not perform? Everyone just thought it was a sure win. So it's sort of crazy that it's not performing. But yeah, the chances of a sequel are very, very low. The only thing is that if they had plans for a sequel, maybe they move into another movie that's going to happen. That clearly won't be with Ezra Miller, because I think Ezra Miller's only chance at continuing with The Flash was this movie being successful. And that just hasn't happened, obviously. So that moves into the next thing, and that's when will we see Flash next on the big screen, where we could see an evolution of maybe something they were planning here or whatever it is. And I think it really depends what's going on with James Gunn's DCU. I think he wouldn't have made plans anything Flash-wise until this movie, so he's probably starting now, whatever they want to do with Flash. He did say in Superman Legacy there's going to be hero, or I think it was reported, sorry, I don't think James Gunn said this, but I think he might have liked a tweet about it or something, which sort of confirmed it. But there's something about how in Superman Legacy, there will be other heroes that show up, which sort of flesh out the DC universe in some way. So I don't know if it would be someone like a Flash, but it could be like a Black Lightning that already resides in Metropolis or has resided in Metropolis, things like that. But I don't know if you get a Flash. We could be waiting another 5 years or something to get anything Flash related, which would be pretty annoying because in my opinion, it's a top 3 DC character, especially nowadays. But But then again, does the box office indicate that that's not the case? So I don't know, but we might be waiting a while. But then again, James Gunn might be like, hey, that's just a weird circumstance. We have faith in the character that we can do this, that, and the other. And then again, we don't know when a Justice League movie is going to show up. So you can't do Justice League without Flash. So it's a wait and see. Hopefully this, the first movie's performance at the box office doesn't, sway any, thoughts about going forward. But then again, you look at like Batman Begins, which didn't do amazingly well at the box office. The next movie was The Dark Knight and made $1 billion. So things like that happen. So we'll wait and see what they do, but fingers crossed we're not waiting too long because, you need Flash in the theaters. You need Flash in your movie universe. Come on, let's go. So hopefully that happens. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome. Go drop a like on it, show support. Let me know in the comments section down below. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think it was really weird, the whole reverse Flash thing in this movie? I thought it was weird the first time I've watched it, and I still feel it's a bit weird. But then again, I think they just had too much on their plate with this film to really include him in any sort of major way. So I understand why he wasn't there, but it still felt weird. Just felt like, as Andy says in that quote, like the elephant in the room. So yeah, let me know your thoughts down there on that and any other villains you'd like to see in a future Flash movie. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.